Do you want any of this?
I'm okay for now. You got way more than me in that glass. Although I've already had a glass before you even started drinking.
Yeah, you can have the rest of this bit.
Okay, go on then.
There you go.
Thanking you.
My pleasure.
Welcome to episode 7 of the Wandering Womb podcast. Do you know what we've stopped doing? Introducing ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Because we just keep assuming that it's the same people listening to our podcast over and over again.
Yeah.
Like, what happens if it's not? And they get all the way through, like, 3 podcasts and like, who the fuck are these people?
Who are these women?
Why do they get shit-faced and record
Why?
podcasts? Oh my God, we could have listeners that are genuinely confused.
Yeah, who don't know who we are.
We should do really quick introductions. Go.
You go first.
No, you have to go first.
Okay, my name is Jaimi Shrive. I have a really cute dog called Castro. She's a Pomeranian crossed with a Chihuahua. I owe her everything in my life. And I have a degree in politics.
Oh my God, that's an amazing introduction. My name is Jessica Taylor.
Dr. Jessica Taylor.
Oh, okay, fine. Dr. Jessica Taylor. I share 50% timeshare in Castro.
No, you don't. You get way more. She loves you so much more than she loves me.
I have 50% of the dog. And I'm a psychologist who specialises in violence against women. Male violence against women specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And we created the Wandering Womb podcast.
Just because I think we have awesome chats. And we always have done. Did you know that next month we have been friends for 5 years?
Fuck off.
And then we became more than friends.
5 years?
5 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. God, that's gone quick, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, hasn't it?
Oh, fucking hell. Where are the years going? Fuck that.
Yeah.
Why are the years going so fast? I want them to slow the fuck down. You always want time to hurry up, don't you? Because you're thinking, oh, I want to go on holiday, or I want it to be Christmas, or I want it to be my birthday, or I want it to be whatever it is that's
or
going on.
I want the fall of capitalism.
Yeah, all that. And then you're like, oh, 6 years have passed and fuck knows where that's gone. Capitalism's still rife.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell them what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, so today, Jess and I have decided to talk about the differences that we see from each other in terms of like the generation between us. Even though it's not a generation.
No, it's not.
But so Jess was born in 1990 and I was born and you were born the very end of 1990 and I was born the very start of 1998.
Yeah. So there's like 7 years between us.
Yeah, just about 7 years. And we're going to talk about all of the some of the differences that are quite prominent in our sort of childhoods. Just in
those 7 years.
Yeah, just in those 7 years.
It's mad, isn't it? We talk about this quite a bit.
Yeah.
And actually there are some very significant differences. And you wouldn't think they would exist that in that sort of way.
Yeah, I mean the development between sort of that time though, isn't it?
It's incredible. We are drinking Merlot. The bottle's empty now.
Yes.
It's quite peppery.
Hang on, let me just have a
lot of Merlots are peppery. Can you taste the dry, sort of spicy?
I can taste the...
Can you smell it? Smell the spice?
Yeah, I can. I already could. But I can also taste blackberries in it.
Oh, God, yeah. Definitely.
Oh, yeah, so we should probably say that we drink with pretty much, every podcast, don't we?
Yeah, the point of the podcast is that we've already had a drink when we start recording. And then we drink while we're recording.
Yeah.
And we just carry on.
Yes.
And then at all other times, we are sober, functioning members of society. No? Okay, fine.
I'm drunk on love.
Was it Rihanna or Beyonce that sang that song?
Drunk in love, Beyonce.
Was it? Oh, that's the one with the horrible misogynistic lyrics, isn't it? That take the
What?
piss out of Ike Turner beating up Tina Turner.
Oh, yeah.
That fucking... Oh, my God. I remember when I saw the I remember when I saw the lyrics to that song, and he's like fucking mocking Tina Turner for being beaten up by Ike Turner, and I was just like, hell fucking no. Hell fucking no. It's disgusting. And I'm just like, what would possess you to write those lyrics? Anyway, let's discuss our...
Yeah.
You want to start with the conversations that we've had around where we lived and what it was like growing up?
Yeah, okay. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Well, one of the discussions that we've had, well, actually, it's not one discussion, it's tons of discussions, is my understanding of a council estate versus your understanding of a council estate and like council houses and shit. Because, so yeah, I was born in 90, end of 90, and I grew up on a council estate, and they were genuinely fuck off sprawling estates that went on for miles, filled with semi-detached houses with big families in them with loads of kids. You had a big garden, and you had, you had a front garden and a back garden, and you grew like they were originally developed for the miners in Stoke, and they had massive gardens because they were supposed to be for growing vegetables in. That's what my neighbour told me anyway, who was a miner, and his
all his life.
What? No, just till he was 18. Oh, fucking hell. No, he was also not a coal miner on his whole life either. His twin brother died in the mines.
Yeah.
Dead sad that was.
What happened?
It's one of them horrible stories, actually. So he was supposed to go to work that day, and he couldn't be arsed. He woke up late, and he rang his twin brother down the road, who lived literally at the bottom of the road, and said, "Go in and do a shift for me, and like clock in as me." And he did, and the mine collapsed and killed him. He'd only been there about an hour and a half. I know.
That's awful.
I know. Mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he died when he was dead young. Anyway, like our council estate was built near the mines, and it's fucking massive. And it was genuinely a council estate. Every fucking house on that estate was owned by the council. It's fucking like probably over 1,000 houses, maybe more. Big houses and big parks and big like
big
green
gardens, big driveways, like.
You've seen them, haven't you, when I drive through
it? They're gorgeous.
Yeah, like objectively, they are big fuck off. I mean, I lived in I started off in a 3-bedroom semi-detached council house with a massive garden, massive front garden. And then when my mum and dad split up, I went up into a smaller council house. It was a 3-bed. And then later on, when my mum had more kids, we had a 4-bedroom council house. There was a semi-detached property, and massive houses, really, when you think about it. And then you always had the added sort of support of the fact that the council was going to maintain it for you and look after it. And we had new I remember them putting double glazed windows in, and I remember them coming and doing the insulation. I remember having a new roof.
Yeah.
I remember having these vent things put in. There was this new legislation, I think, that went round, and then all the council houses had to be upgraded. But council houses for us were... Well, don't get me wrong, though, there was a lot of stigma. Like, there's a lot of stigma that you lived on the council estate. It was very segregated to the other areas. There was no, like, private rent on there or anything like that. Everyone on that estate was a council tenant. And I was walking home one day, and my first ever experience of like classism and stigma towards council estates, I was in year 5 or year 6, would have made me, 10, 11? Is that right or not?
10 or 11, yeah.
Yeah. and I was walking up the road towards my house, and this kid said to me, "Oh, do you live up there then, do you?" And I was like, yeah, I live like on that road. And she said, my mum says that estate is for people that can't afford real houses, so the council give them houses. And I was like, I do live in a real house. And she was like, no, you don't, because you don't own your house. And I was like, yes, we do. And she was like, no, the council give you houses because your family are poor. And I was like, no, we are not. And I had no idea that we were in a council house at all. Went back to my mum and dad and was like, she said that we live in a council house and we don't own our house. We do own our house, don't we? And mum and dad were like, no. And that I didn't know, because I grew up around everyone else. Nobody owned their fucking house. It wasn't like a thing. It only became a thing when I went to middle school and then to high school, when I mixed with loads of kids from the posh estate, or what we called the posh estate, which was not fucking posh at all, but it was basically a load of bought houses, privately owned houses. And that was when I started to understand the difference.
It's so different to me growing up. I don't know if that's my
Like an
area or the time, but when I was growing up, you couldn't get a council house.
Yeah, no,
They were so
though.
rare. They were so rare. And like, even me and my mum, so single parent family, my dad had died when I was really young. My mum was a student. She'd only just got her degree, which was a miracle that she'd managed to do. It was through Blair's government, of meaning that she didn't have to pay fees. You couldn't get a council house.
Because they'd all been fucking sold off,
They'd all been sold off. And also, people used to be able to get council houses.
And then buy them off the council.
And then bought them off the council.
Yeah.
My mum and dad did that council house.
My mum and dad did that eventually.
Yeah.
But when I was older. And then they divorced and sold it.
Yeah, I mean...
And then we went back, like me, mum and the kids went back to living in a council house. And then we stayed in proper council. But like, don't get me wrong, I was still in council housing in 2005, 2006. I was still in a council house. So I was 15, 16.
Yeah.
I was still in a council house, like on the council estate.
They were like gold dust where I was growing up. And like, where I was growing up is not a posh area.
No.
At all.
But maybe they were sold off quicker in those areas or something.
Yeah, they definitely were sold off a lot quicker, and we ended up in private like rented accommodation. And
when I was growing up, private rented accommodation was seen as posh. Like if you had a landlord and you were in a private house, that was posh.
No, like rented. I remember my friend said to me, "Do you rent your car?" And I was like, "What? No." She was like, "But these houses around here are rented." I was like, "Oh, yeah." Like, I didn't know the difference between mortgage and rent. I used to think that they were basically the same words, but interchangeable.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And she wasn't saying it nastily, she just didn't understand. So there was the stigma, the same stigma that you talk about being a council house, was the same for a rented house. Like a rented accommodation. Because like we couldn't afford, or we didn't have like, to get a mortgage.
I still think that exists.
Oh,
the
100%.
Stigma towards renters.
100%. But I think it's becoming different now, because students are leaving university and are trying to get into graduate employment and aren't managing to, and then they end up stuck in the rental trap.
Yeah. And it is. It's a trap. It's hard to get out of.
It's impossible.
Like it's not impossible, but it's fucking really hard.
Well, yeah, but for a lot of people it is impossible.
Yeah.
Like, it is literally impossible. They can't, they are stuck renting a house, so they can't save for a deposit, because you can't save when you don't have any disposable income.
Yeah, it's pretty much that the only people that will get out of that trap is the renters that have significant disposable income as well. They're the only people that will get out.
Yeah, of course.
Because if you're spending all your money on rent and bills, you can't then save up big chunks of money for a decent deposit.
And even when you do, there's always something that comes along.
Isn't that why the government set up the Help to Buy scheme for a 5% deposit and things like that? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a lot of fucking money.
The Help to Buy scheme isn't at 5%.
Some of it is.
Is it?
And they'll match it to make a 10%.
It don't work like that.
Some of them do.
Do they? They've scrapped that now anyway.
I think they might. Yeah, no, I think they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the other one we were talking about? You know the one we were talking about when we were having breakfast in France? We talked about dating.
Ah, yeah, we did.
Do you remember?
And the difference between...
I couldn't believe the fucking difference.
Yeah. And that was only in like 6 years. I think there's 6 school years between us.
Yeah.
Like...
Absolute madness. Couldn't believe the difference when we talked about that.
Yeah.
I couldn't get my head around it. So basically, right, we were having breakfast in France. We were talking about the dating scene when we were teenagers. And I was saying that when I was growing up, you would be interested in somebody and then you would like ask them on a date, like a proper date. So you would be like, I fancy this person. Would you go on a date with me? And then they'd be like, yes or no. And then you'd be like, oh, we're going to the cinema, or we'd go to like bowling, or we'd go like for some chips, or we'd like go somewhere, go like roller skating, yeah, or swimming,
Yeah.
okay. And then you would go on a few dates like that, like maybe several of those dates, and then eventually you would be like, will you be my girlfriend or will you be my boyfriend, okay? And at that point, you're then like official. And at that point, you would then be like, oh my God, do we kiss them? Am I going to, like, whatever. And then if you're much older, it might be like, oh, am I going to sleep with them or I'm going to do something with them or whatever. But like the conversation we ended up having was because Jamie was saying that her experience and what was going on in like 6-7 years later was nothing like that.
No, not
And you
at
found
all.
it really funny and sort of like, I don't know, a bit alien that we were
Seemed
waiting to
cliche.
have sex. Like, so you would like date, then you would get in a relationship with them, and then you might wait 6 to 9 months, maybe even longer, before you would shag them. Even as a teenager, even as an older teenager. You had some people obviously that were doing it faster than that, but 6 to 9 months was very normal in my sort of like group of friends and my year group, where if like honestly it would be like if people found out that you were fucking around with someone and you weren't in a relationship with them, that shit would not go down well at all. People would be like,
yeah,
why are you not in a relationship with each other? Why are you not
Yeah.
committed to each other? And if you found out that someone was like playing 2 or 3 people and sleeping around, that shit would not go down well. It was like, if you're going to sleep with someone, you should be serious about them and you should be committed to them and you should trust each other.
Yeah, no, that's so different. So I think my generation saw that as very cliche.
Almost like not a stereotype. What's the word? I know cliche is correct.
Yeah,
though.
it was just cliche. And so what would happen when I was growing up is you would be texting and you go through what is known as the talking phase, where you were just sort of, and now that part could last ages. Like I remember talking to a guy for probably like 2 years before I did anything with him, maybe even longer than 2 years.
When you say talking, what do you mean? Flirting?
Yeah, a bit of flirting for sure, but just like texting each other every single day.
What, and being like, love you?
No, God, no.
So you talk to each other every day for 2 years?
Yeah, of course you do. But like you
But
might
then,
be,
so why aren't they just your mate?
because you're flirting with each other as well, and like you just don't want to make anything exclusive.
Why?
Because you don't. Because you want to explore other avenues. You want to, it's just how it was. And you would go through like a talking phase, and then once one of you sort of decided that you were, that they wanted, that they were, that you'd got, it was usually mutual, that you'd come to a point where you're like, right, shall we, will you go out with me, whatever. Then you were basically ready to get married. Like you were so into each other by that point, and you were like, it was really serious by then. A lot of people had already sort of...
If you were so serious, why was it just called talking? Why weren't you in a relationship that whole time?
Because it was like cliche, and like you wouldn't have wanted to like make it exclusive, and you wanted
what was
to.
the fear around that though? That
Because
it
you
looked
wanted
corny?
to talk, and you wanted to talk to other people.
But if you want to keep talking to other people, you're not committed, are you?
Well, exactly. You didn't want to commit to other people.
So
That was our generation. We'd got Snapchat, we'd got Instagram, we'd got Facebook, we'd got Twitter, and back then, I don't know if anyone listening to this will remember this, but do you remember before you could like a tweet, you would favourite people's tweets, and it was a gold star. You used to click on favourite people's tweets instead of liking them.
I actually do remember that, but I wasn't using it then.
That back then was flirting. If you were favouriting people's tweets, it was like, oh, he's been favouriting her tweets. That meant that, yes, that was you were flirting with each other.
Right, no, I'm going to just slow down a minute because there's a bit of this I don't get. So if you're so you're calling it talking. So say you're talking to this kid for like fucking 2 years, right?
Not kid.
Right, you're both kids.
Right, okay.
Right. You're talking to this kid for like 2 years, right? And then you decide, like, oh, shall we go out together? And you just said, oh, you're literally like ready for fucking marriage at this point. Like that committed. I know you're not being like literal, right? But if you're genuinely that committed, why were you not committed all the way through the 2 years of talking to each other if you're constantly trying to keep your options open? If I was on the receiving end of that when I was a teenager, I would have told them to fuck off.
Because
they were constantly like, oh, I don't want to make it official because I'm talking to other people. I'd be like, you can fuck off then.
It's about the way you're perceived and the way you look. Like, neither of you want to chase. You want to be wanted. You want to be desired.
But you don't want to commit.
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily that you don't want to commit. Like, you could proper fancy someone. You could want them. Like, but if you start talking to other guys or they start talking to other girls, it makes the other person want you more. Who you actually want.
This is game playing. It's manipulative.
Yeah, for sure it is. For sure.
That's horrible.
I was talking to a guy for ages and he never told me he had a girlfriend.
Oh, that's awful.
He never denied it, but he never said
brought
that
it
he
up.
did. But I was into older anyway, so I didn't get too caught up in it, luckily. But I watched everyone else go through it. And they would I
just can't imagine going, like, it was difficult enough as a teenager going through relationships the way I went through them and the way my friends went through them without whatever the fuck that is you just described.
And a lot of the time you'd be like, not necessarily shagging each other, but you'd be doing stuff.
That's what I mean though. So you're like sexually intimate, you must trust this person on a level, but you don't trust them enough to commit in a relationship. It's the other way around when I was growing up. You would basically
be in a relationship. And some people were even like exclusive, as in like they would only be talking to that person, they would only be doing stuff for that person, they would only be... And, you could proper confide in them people, but you wouldn't admit to that you were in a relationship. And what's more is, like, you wouldn't be seen out in public with them.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I know.
Why? What was the big thing?
Unless it's just me and I was just really ugly in high school and, like, nobody wanted to...
No. Quality shit. It's just madness. That is absolute madness.
Yeah, that's just...
I don't know how any of you coped with it. Okay, then, so if that's the case, how did you deal with things like cheating? So, if you've been talking to some lad
because it'd be like,
girl
you've been talking to him, I've been talking to him.
Yeah, but
because
it's not exclusive, it's not cheating, is it?
People knew that you were sort of talking.
Well, what was the fucking... But why not just come out in the open about it then?
Because it was just cliche and, like, you just wanted to keep your options open. You wanted to be able to go to a party and get fingered or whatever.
What the fuck?
Oh, God.
I don't understand. Right, as far as I'm concerned,
but
in
then
adult
also you
relationships
wouldn't.
Or in teenage relationships, you're either exclusive or you're not. It sounds to me like you had this grey area middle ground where
you did.
You sort of weren't exclusive, but you were. But you wanted to be together, but you didn't. But you were doing stuff with each other, but you didn't want anyone to know. But you were together, but you didn't want anyone to see you.
Yeah.
Fuck that. It was so clear cut when I was growing up.
No,
it was like you were either together or you weren't. And also, there was some big shit that cracked off around relationships where they were under the fucking radar. So, like, if people were like, well, you two are clearly together, and they're like, no, we're not. Like, you fucking are, though, aren't you? Like, why won't you come out about it? And then the other thing that used to kick off was like, for example, say you had a girl or a boy that you were seeing at school and they wouldn't hold your hand at school, or they wouldn't be like seeing dead with you at school, that you break up with them. You'd be like, fuck off. If you're not proud to be with me, fuck off. It was that clear. And honestly, I thought growing up as a teenager was bad, but fucking hell, you lot, that was way... What the fuck? It's like, how did you develop such a casual relationship towards sex, intimacy and relationships, even at that age? Ours were really serious. I can't imagine trusting somebody with sexual contact and intimacy and relationships and shit if they wouldn't even commit to me and be seen dead with me at school or something like that.
It's not about not being seen dead with you. Like...
But they wouldn't admit they were in a relationship with you.
Well, no, but neither would you. And you weren't in a relationship.
Well, for all intents and purposes, you were.
Yeah, of course.
But you just wouldn't name it.
Yeah, it's about not putting labels on stuff. People didn't want to put labels on stuff.
Yeah, but why? That's what I mean. You have to get to the bottom of why. Because they wanted to fuck around. They wanted their options open and therefore they weren't committed.
Yeah.
That's madness. I just would not engage in that shit. If I was growing up now, I'd be like, nah, fuck off.
Yeah, but everybody was sort of like that. There was always like options open and everyone was always sort of waiting for someone else to come along. You'd got social media. It wasn't just the people in your class who you could choose from. It meant that it gave you like other schools, other year groups, some of the older boys, like access to over social media.
I didn't have social media when I was growing up.
Well, we didn't have it until probably I was about 13.
First social media account
13,
I ever
14.
opened, I was nearly 19. I was 18 and a half, and I know it was because I know exactly when it was.
See, I had it younger, but I didn't use it properly. But then when you start properly using it, that's when all the dating stuff comes in. You're just like, oh my God, that boy in sixth form just liked my pictures.
Yeah. I remember getting Facebook when I was 18 and a half. Like, for sure. I was like, it was like the spring of 2009. And I was 19 in 2009. And I remember my friend going, you have to get Facebook. And I was like, why? And she was like, oh, it's this new thing. You just get it and you create a profile. And I was like, why? And she was like, you just got to do it. It's brilliant. I was like, I don't get it. And she showed me her profile. And I was still like...
I think I had Facebook when I was in 2009 as well.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't get it. And she was like, honestly, it's just so much fun. It's like you get to add people and you can like see what people are doing and all sorts of shit. And I was like, I looked at it. And I looked at it for ages on her phone. Anyway, it took her about 6 months to persuade me to get this fucking profile. Anyway, I got it. I was so confused. I was fucking putting statuses up like I was someone's grandma. Being like, hi, everybody, on my status, because I had no idea what was going on.
Excellent.
The whole thing confused the living fuck out of me. I didn't understand the purpose of it. People kept adding me. Strangers added me. Friends added me. People from school added me. Fucking all sorts happened. And it took me, I would say, about 1.5 years to fully understand how to engage with it.
Yeah.
It's really complicated.
Of course,
I'd never had a social media profile, and I was getting on for 20.
Well, nobody really had, except for Bebo and MSN.
Yeah. Well, MSN wasn't even... It was a messenger app, really, more than anything. Like a chat... It was a chat client.
And MySpace.
Yeah, I didn't have MySpace. But, I did have MSN Messenger, but that was generally a messenger client, and that was all it really was. It wasn't a social media platform. But I am glad I didn't grow up with social media, because it's I'm still watching my youngest brothers go through that, who are 17 and 12. And they're going through that now. And then we've got our own kids.
Yeah.
And they're just coming up 12 and 9. And they're going through it. And I don't know how they fucking cope. Fuck social media as you're growing up. I'm so glad I was probably one of the last groups of age groups that didn't have to do it.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. I think you were the last age group, and then I was the first who had to.
My little sister didn't have social media either, though. She's 3 years younger than me. And I've got another sister 4 years younger than me. She didn't have social media growing up either. So I think there might have been another wave of kids 3 or 4 years younger than me who did not grow up with social media. Whereas my brother, he had it.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was born
and
96.
That's only, yeah. I think that it matures you a lot earlier as well.
Yeah, but not in a healthy way.
No, not in a healthy way. I actually think that's where a lot of my sort of the reason, maybe it's one of the reasons why I wasn't interested in people my own age.
Really?
Much more attracted to older men and women. But I think that the things that you're exposed to, and if you're bright enough to work out what they mean, it forces you to grow up a lot earlier than what you should.
Yeah. I think all forms of overexposure force you to grow up quicker than you should do.
Yeah.
Like, I literally mean that about anything. It could be like watching, I don't know, bloody scary content constantly. It forces you to develop quicker. And even if you were watching, like, I don't know, EastEnders every day and it had very adult topics in it, you're constantly exposed to media that's a little bit too complicated for you or a little bit too adult. It forces you to have to understand or change the way you think or develop the way you think about something. Doesn't mean that you're ready for it and doesn't mean that it's okay, but anyway, I'm like honestly so thankful I didn't grow up with social media.
Yeah.
I was a savage little chav as well. I would have got myself in trouble on social media constantly.
That was another thing, people were always getting in trouble on social media. People were always getting into fights and like...
Yeah, that shit I did not need. We were getting into real fights.
Oh no, it would end up in real fights at school.
No, that's what I mean, but I didn't need social media fueling that.
Yeah.
We were getting into enough fights as it was. People were... I carried a fucking weapon for 3 years.
Right, some people will remember Snapchat best friends. And there was like...
Oh, me and Tasmin were Snapchat best friends.
Oh yeah, except for when you're...
But I was like 24.
But when your Snapchat best friends was somebody who's got a girlfriend and... There was this guy who I was talking to for ages who I really, really liked. And I was his best friend on Snapchat and I didn't know he had a girlfriend. And then it meant that everybody else was like, why are them two best friends on Snapchat? And then it just created so much shit. And it's like, oh, mate, come on. It was bad.
I'm so glad I didn't have Snapchat.
But I think a lot of that is fueled by stuff like music and TV that gets shown to you at such a young age. Like, you could be singing along to a song, not really fully realising what the lyrics mean.
Oh, I know.
And then you watch the music video and it's something like, and it's people like having sex and stuff.
Yeah.
Like S&M by Rihanna was played at every single Christmas play at my school. S&M. Like,
yeah, but like when
girls dancing with like chains and whips. Like, oh my god.
Isn't there some of those lyrics?
Should I not have known I was lesbian back then?
Aren't there lyrics in S&M that says something like, I love the smell of sex?
Yeah, and like
sex
chains and whips excite me.
Yeah.
And we were like 14, 13, 12.
Like even so, I'm trying to think of the songs that were played at my like 5th birthday party, and I'm pretty sure "Boom Boom Boom" by the Out There Brothers was played at my 5th birthday party, and the lyrics to that are like fucking really explicit about giving women head and shit, and saying like "sit on my face" and shit like that.
I'm sorry, but it's not as explicit as S&M.
It is.
Yeah, but it's not as bad though. That's like nice, like, oh yeah, sit on my face, I'll give you nice oral. S&M is like about...
It's not what that says. The Out There Brothers song "Boom Boom Boom" is like, let me think of the lyrics. It's like, girl, your booty is so round, let me lick it up and down. If I cannot be with you, maybe I can have a taste. Put your arms around me, girl, and your booty on my face, right? And then it's like some lyrics about oral sex. For
yeah,
like
but
20 seconds.
That's healthy sex. Whereas like S&M to like 12, 13-year-olds. No wonder we're all like into choking.
Oh my god, that's so bad.
Yeah, but it is though, isn't it?
That's Pornhub.
Right, but
it is.
But it's a mixture.
We know that statistically, in the 80s and the early 90s, porn contain about 20 to 30% of porn contained any form of sexual violence, and now it's 97 to 99%.
That's another thing. My generation grew up on Pornhub.
Yeah, we didn't have access to like free porn when we was kids. Porn was paid when we was kids.
You could access porn, I think, from about...
There was a thing called RedTube that the
RedTube.
boys used to
Yeah,
go
I was
on,
just about to say RedTube.
but we were
was
older
the first
teenagers,
one.
like 16 to 18 around RedTube.
Hang on. I was 11 when people started using RedTube my age. And then Pornhub.
Yeah, that
we
sounds
were
right, because I was about
12.
18, I think.
Yeah,
So
Pornhub we were about 12.
I think we were about 16, 17, 18 when the lads said they were on this thing called
But
RedTube.
that probably...
I didn't know what it was, though.
That probably is the reason for, like, the hookup culture.
No, I agree. I think it's the desensitisation of hookup culture.
Yeah, for
sure. And then you guys were actually wrapped up in it, whereas we weren't. We were still like, will you go on a date with me?
Oh, that would be so, like, cringy.
And then you'd go to, like, the cinema to watch, like, Jeepers Creepers.
If somebody said to me, if someone was like, oh, hi, Jamie, do you want to go to the cinema? I'd be like, fuck off.
Why? They're being nice, doing nice things.
I think I went to the cinema when I was a bit older with my first, like, proper boyfriend when I was about 15, 16. But, like, yeah, it's because it felt like they were just a bit too keen.
What, to just be nice and ask you on a date?
It was just too keen. I want, like...
Well, I'm into the... to talk to you for 2 years and lie about the fact that they've got a girlfriend.
All right. But everybody was just into the chase. The chase is what's fun. Not to mention, we were all going through so much shit with the constant changing of our GCSEs and our exams and all shit like that. Like, we probably could have all done with, like, settled relationships, but it was more fun to just go with the chase.
But it doesn't sound like you were actually chasing each other. It sounds like you were actually avoiding the chase. You were talking to each other, but you weren't actually... The chase is part of trying to get them to almost, like, commit to you as the boyfriend or girlfriend.
No, there was that.
Well, how was it if you were sort of not asking them out for long periods of time? There's no chase there.
Well, no, there is. It's just a very long chase, and it's sort of, like, in and out.
I just would never, ever, ever have, like, trusted anyone I was dating with any type of sexual contact if they wouldn't commit to me. It was that fucking clear. Like, if they're not interested and they didn't want to be my partner, then fuck off if they think I'm going to get naked. It was that clear. And, like, everybody felt the same way. Even the boys felt that way too. It was like, they're not going to just shag around. And it's so interesting listening to I don't know how you coped with that. That would have sent me fucking bonkers, dealing with that amount of insecurity. It was hard enough being in teenage relationships and, like, you know, what you dealt with, I think, like what I dealt with, what my friends dealt with was the whole, yeah, I'll be your boyfriend or yeah, I'll be your girlfriend, and they shag you and dump you. Because what they were doing was they were manipulating you to say they'd be your partner, get what they want out of you, and leave. So that was something you ended up dealing with quite a bit.
Yeah,
which was awful for people.
You didn't really... Like, you would have sex with someone if you wanted to have sex with them.
Yeah.
Like, it was that simple, really. And a lot of people will have done stuff, and, like, it was very private. Like, you wouldn't necessarily even tell a lot of your friends.
What, that you'd, like, been with someone?
Or, like, done stuff with someone or whatever. But, like, yeah, no, if somebody would have said, like, oh, do you want to go to the cinema? Like, oh, do you want to go roller skating with me? I'm like, no.
Oh my God.
Unless I was proper into them. I wouldn't go on a date with them. Unless I, like, wanted people to think... Unless I really wanted to be with them. I'd be like, no. Because it's just awkward.
Hang on a minute. So does that mean that you could be, in your words, talking to somebody, and you could also be sleeping with them or doing sexual stuff with them, but you'd never been on a date?
Yeah.
What the fuck? But does that mean you'd meet up and spend time together on the quiet?
Depends what you could do.
Well, like, for example, would you go somewhere nice or go for some food or...
Would you go somewhere nice?
What
no.
the fuck were you lot doing?
You'd go for, like, walks. Walks.
You just walk somewhere like around the estate.
No.
Round.
We used to walk through like a forest trail.
Yeah.
Do stuff like that. Where not many people would see you, or
What?
like sometimes.
So what would happen if like you and someone else were walking through your forest trail thing, and then a load of heads from school were like, "Hey, what were you up to?
Oh my god!
Oh, what are you doing?" Or whatever.
Oh, you wouldn't fucking live it down. You wouldn't live it down.
What?
They're just like, "Oh, what were you doing at the weekend? Getting dirty in the woods?" Like, oh, fuck's sake, man.
But then if people knew, why not just be like, "Yeah, we've been like talking to each other for ages, man."
Because it requires one person, like.
That
It requires
like
you
like...
both to admit it, and it's like, well, I don't want to admit it if they won't admit it, and they're like, well, I don't want to admit it if they don't want to admit it.
So why don't you just both be like, should we be together?
Because that would require someone to be very vulnerable and open with you.
So is it about protecting yourself?
Yeah, of course.
But you're both protecting yourself from each other.
Yeah.
So therefore there's no trust.
Yeah, but you might not be, because the other person might just want to be shagging around. You also might want to be shagging around.
But then there's also no trust.
You just don't know, though. You just don't know.
Fuck that, this is a mess.
Like, you could be talking to 3 or 4 different guys, shagging one of them, just using the other 3 to just, like, talk to, because why not?
Fuck that. This is so complicated.
I might also have a very warped experience of this because I've now figured out I'm a lesbian.
What, you mean? So
I just actually fancied...
it was just you that wouldn't commit to anybody. Everyone else... It's just you that was just being like, nah, thanks. No, I don't want to go on a fucking date, you little weirdo.
Just make me come.
Yeah, and walk through this forest and shut up.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Fucking hell. Oh my god.
But
Maybe
yeah.
it's just you.
No, it wasn't.
You sure?
Yeah, no. And BBM, people used to chat with people on BBM.
Yeah.
Blackberry Messenger.
Yeah, I know what that is, but I was never rich enough to have a Blackberry.
No, same.
So
I didn't have a
just didn't have
Blackberry
it.
either.
And only the rich kids had Blackberry.
Yeah, but I bet you were quite old when BBM was
Right, when
big.
BBM became a big thing, yeah, I was much older, but there were, just as I was leaving high school, i.e. like 16, going into 17,
Yeah.
some people had them.
That was when I was sort of going into high school.
I can't believe how long we've been talking about that. It's a massive topic, though, that is. It's such a massive difference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I remember... do you remember monophonic and polyphonic ringtones?
Mm-hmm.
My first ever...
That's
What
this
was
week's
that?
free
sound effect.
sound effect.
Oh, that one. That's amazing. I used to have just the beepy ones, the proper like monophonic ones.
Let me
It was
show
just
you.
beep. It was just beep, 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 right? And then I got a polyphonic ringtone phone. I was dead excited. And do you know what it came with on the phone? It came with Kylie Minogue. And it just went, la, 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 la.
Oh, do you remember?
La, 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 la. That's all it did, right?
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the whole ringtone. And everyone heard it and was like, whoa.
I had Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and this is what I've got now, everybody.
True polyphonic. Check that shit out.
Yeah, I love that. I'm very
G as
proud.
fuck.
I'm very proud when that comes on.
And then, alright, I had an 8210 or a 6610 or something. It was fucking about that big.
Yeah.
It was the size of a fucking Milky Way, right?
Yeah.
And it was tiny. I was dead happy with it. Anyway, I lost it on a bus.
Oh, babe.
I was gutted, man. I had a triangle
I remember
sticker
those
on it.
tiny phones. I really wanted one so I could hide it when I took it to school.
Oh, yeah, tiny. I used to put them in my boot or in my sock and have them all day. No one would even know you had them.
Yeah. Oh. Well, that concludes our episode 7
Episode 7
of the Wandering Womb podcast. Thank you for everyone who's listening so far, and thank you so much everyone who's tweeting us. We love reading your comments. It's been just really nice to read them.
And you should just like suggest topics.
Yeah, suggestions welcome. Thank you.
Cheers, babe.